Hello, Facebook. Hello, friends. So, I want to share with you about breaking patterns once and for all. And if I could, I would give you the magical recipe of how to simply break a pattern, change our ways, and be done with it. But that's not how it works. There's no magical shortcut, there is no escape. There is no easy way to just break a pattern and be done with it. So, probably most of you have been in a relationship at some point, whether it's a partner or whether it's a friend, and you probably noticed that relationships are an amazing place for patterns to come up and to get awareness on them. Like simple patterns like who's doing which chores in the house, or deeper patterns of how you behave. And my personal process has been over my last relationships that a lot of my patterns came up. And to me, a pattern is an interaction between two people that that works together. You know, an interaction where there is always a dynamic. You know, like this play thing for kids where one is sitting on one end of the balance and the other is sitting on the other end of the balance. It only works if both are playing. And with patterns in relationship, it's the same thing. If one person is making themselves bigger, then the other person is making themselves smaller. And if one of them is not playing that game, then there is no game happening at all. And what I've noticed is my last relationship that we decided to change to go our own way. For me, it was a big pattern to say, like, this is what I want in a relationship, this is what I desire, and we bring up lots of patterns in each other, and I'm willing to work on it. And this is my invitation, is to either jump deeply into it and work on all the processes that come up, or to go our own way. Because I believe if you want to work on patterns in relationship, you do need full commitment of both. It can be that one person is like one-sidedly working on patterns and changing things, but to really go deeply, at least you need a commitment of both, a willingness to work on it, because inevitably working on patterns will bring up emotions and fears and insecurities and all kinds of things. And even though I think it's possible, if one person is doing the big work, like the internal work and the learning, I think both need to be committed to the process. If not, it's not working. So that is why my last relationship, we went our own way, because there couldn't be an equal commitment of facing the breaking of the patterns. So there was this thought in me that by going our own way, the pattern would be broken, because my pattern is to go along with someone else's desires and to make myself a bit smaller, and then to end up in a situation that I don't really like. So I thought I broke the pattern by saying, like, hey, this is my invitation. If it's not a yes, it's a no. And then, we go our own way. And that happened. But then we went our own way, and the pattern wasn't broken. My pattern has always been, because I'm more on the anxious side of attachment. If you don't know what I'm talking about, check my previous videos. I've talked about this a lot. So one of my patterns is to ask for affirmation in relationships. So to ask for confirmation of being loved, being seen, being safe. And after going our own way, I could feel that pattern towards him was still happening. So there was still an urge to reach out and ask for confirmation of being loved. So the real work of breaking the pattern, of consistently breaking the pattern, actually is still happening. Is happening after that first moment of saying like, hey, you know what? I'm going to do this different. I'm going to make a change in my life. I'm not going to play by my own old rules anymore. I'm going to change these. But our brains work in a way that we can simply decide to do things different, but that it doesn't mean that things automatically go different. You know, our neural pathways work in such a way that if you train one pathway, it becomes stronger, it becomes the default choice, it becomes the first route taken without even thinking of it. It's like the highway of your brain. And if you want to do things differently, you have to go out there into the jungle with your machete and cut out a whole new road. And then walk that road again and again and again and again until that becomes the first choice and becomes the big road. And the old highway becomes overgrown with grass. You know, you see how nature always takes over. And that happens in our brains too. So breaking patterns, it takes, for one, it takes the awareness that there actually is a pattern. Then it takes commitment, or it takes a decision to say to yourself, like, hey, I'm going to do this different from now on. And then it leads a whole lot of stamina and courage and a long breath to keep doing things differently again and again and again. And my big recommendation for this process is to find support, because especially with relationships, it's so tempting to go back into your own ways. It's so tempting. If you're more anxiously wired, if you're the one who seeks commitment, who's afraid of being abandoned, you'll probably still either try to find that commitment with your ex, or you're gonna like blindly try and find that anywhere else. So it's an easy pitfall to go into a next relationship without having changed anything. And if you're a more avoidant person, the pattern can be to keep avoiding, even though if you say like, hey, I'm gonna let this in closer, I'm gonna work on intimacy and let this in more, I'm gonna be with my emotions, I'm gonna go inwards this time, then it can still be very tempting to not do it, to find distractions either in some form of an addiction or in another relationship as well. So both anxiously and avoidantly wired persons can easily find distractions in new relationships, in sex, in finding lovers, and maybe telling yourself like, hey, I broke the pattern and I'm going to do it different, but actually you're just doing the same thing with a new person. So it takes support to not fall back into your own patterns. And the great thing would be to find people that you can trust, people you don't relate with and don't want to relate with. For me, it's sisters. I've got a bunch of dear friends, dear sisters that know me well, that know how I work and understand what's going on in my system. So I can check in with them. I can tell them like, whoa, shit, today is hard. Today I want to be loved and confirmed, and I feel myself going back into my old patterns, and they can like listen to me. Just listen to me and either help me getting some confirmation or finding healthy ways to get some confirmation, because I do believe that we all have a desire to feel safe, and it's perfectly fine to want to feel safe and get some confirmation of being loved and being seen in order to relax our nervous system and to feel safe. That's fine. Just find the good places to find it and not the unhealthy places. So I got my sisters. Last week I was in a workshop, a retreat, and I felt this strong urge to reach out and get confirmation with my former partner. And I was living in an Airbnb with two friends, and I told them, as soon as I shout apple pie, just grab my phone and keep it away from me until I'm alright again. And it wasn't necessary, but it was great to have a funny way with humor of uh, asking for support. And they didn't need to get my phone, but we could talk every now and then and just share like, hey, this is what's happening. This is why I'm very angry. I had lots of anger coming up lately. This is why I'm sad. So to feel heard and to feel seen in it all. So basically, those are a few of the steps that I would suggest to you if you want to break patterns once and for all, is to first figure out that you got patterns running that you don't like, that are not supportive. So how to find out that you got patterns running that you don't like, when there's returning circumstances, returning events, returning certain people, returning things coming back into your life, and you're like, hey, actually I don't want this. This is not really helping me. But if they come back, you can be sure there's a pattern happening. So find out that there is a pattern, have that decision with yourself that you actually want to drop these patterns, that you want to work on them, and then to find support actually breaking them. It's not the decision to break them. It's not the first time that you do something different that the pattern is broken. It's an amazing first step, and please celebrate with yourself. It's an amazing first step, this first time when you do something different. But you have to do it again and again and again and again to rewire your brain and to create a helpful pattern, because you'll never be without patterns, but pick the right ones, the ones that actually support you and not the ones that are not helpful. And especially relationships are such fertile ground to find your patterns and to see your patterns and to change them. So this is what I got for today on patterns. If you want to share your experiences on breaking patterns, things that work for you, please share them. If you're curious about other things that I got to say, there are more videos before this one, and probably more coming once I moved. You don't want to see my house right now. Yeah. If you got any questions, if you're curious about meeting me or being in my workshops, figure out I'm doing lots of cool things. That's it for tonight. I hope you all have a great evening, morning, afternoon, whatever time zone you're in. And talk soon, and do let me know if you have any questions or topics that you'd love me to talk about, especially when it's about relationships, non-monogamy, sexuality, kinky things, tantra, all those things. Let me know. I'm here. All right, see you next time. Mwah.